For those of you who are new to my channel, my name is Xanxust, and I create videos and articles about strategy guides for Richie Mahjong. I've climbed from Master 3 to Saint 1 3 times in my life, and I've played around 1,200 games in the Jade Room alone. It's been a while since I made my video on how to escape the Go Room, and honestly, I had off on making this video for a long time. To me, this video isn't like my usual videos where I only discuss Mahjong strategies or concepts, but rather more of a story on how brutal Mahjong can really be, and what it really takes to climb to Saint rank in Mahjong Soul. If you're interested in hearing about my personal experience, feel free to stick around, but if you're just here to find out how to climb to Saint rank, feel free to skip ahead to the timestamp on the screen. I first hit Master rank in January 2022, which is quite a long time ago. Back then, I was still in university, and had a lot more free time compared to now as a working adult. I would play lots of matches every day, because I was really committed to getting that Saint rank. Eventually, after around 400 games in the Jade Room, I reached Saint 1 in 2023. Then, long story short, I dropped back to Master 3 and then climbed back to Saint 1 in 2024. But once again, I just couldn't seem to maintain my Saint rank, and I dropped back to Master 3 after a while. I wanted to make this video a lot earlier, but the first 2 times I reached Saint rank, I couldn't attribute my success to anything specific I was doing, so I didn't feel confident making a video about it. And in those long periods of time, when I was back at Master rank, I also didn't feel like I was qualified to give any advice. After all, what made me qualified to talk about how to get out of Master rank if I was at Master rank myself? It didn't help that in December 2025, I dropped all the way back to Master 2, which was the lowest rank I had been in almost 4 years. I started doubting my own Mahjong ability, thinking that I was just rusty and washed up, and I wondered if my first 2 times climbing to Saint were just me getting lucky or me actually playing well. Looking back, I think it was just due to a streak of bad luck, which happens to the best of us. But at that moment, I was extremely demoralized, to the point where I was honestly thinking about quitting Mahjong Soul. But one day, I came to this realization: there's going to be a day in the future when I stop uploading on YouTube altogether. Not anytime soon, but that day will come eventually. And when that happens, there might be new viewers who stumble upon my videos, but then they'll start to think, this guy is only Master 2, he's not even that good, why should I listen to this guy? And I can't pinpoint which day it happened exactly, but I remember I woke up and thought, you know what? I'm not going to let things end like this. Let's give it one more try. I started to really think about what caused me to derank so many times when I was at Saint 1 or even at Master 3, and something clicked. I was making one mistake over and over again in the Jade Room. I had to tweak my playstyle, and I decided to try something out to adjust the way I played. And honestly, it worked out way better than I expected. Once I made that adjustment, I played 56 games and climbed back to Master 3. After that, in 2 months, I played 75 games, and in February 2026, I climbed back to Saint 1 for the 3rd time. I feel much more confident making this video now, not just because I've proven to myself that I still have what it takes, but because I can now pinpoint a clear reason why I struggled so hard in the Jade Room previously. Honestly, I feel like compared to 2 or 3 years ago, the Jade Room has gotten tougher. Not only are players getting better due to tools like Maka and the increasing amount of learning resources, Mahjong Soul's Jade Room has a unique problem. See, if you play Mahjong Soul, you have a choice to play in either the room you unlock once you rank up, or the lower ranked room you already had access to. Players will tend to play in the highest ranked room they can, so adept players will play in the silver room, expert players will play in the gold room, master players will play in the Jade Room, and Saint players also play in the Jade Room. Wait, what? Yeah, most Saint players choose to play in the Jade Room instead of the Throne Room, and it's for reasons that are completely valid. If I'm a Saint player and I get first place in Jade Room, I get plus 110 points. If I get first place in a Throne Room game, I get plus 120 points. I only gain 10 more points from winning in the Throne Room, but I have to play with mostly Celestial players who are likely much better than I am. Over time, I have a much higher chance of getting 4th place more often and losing rank. For the sacrifice of only 10 points for every first place, I'd rather go and play in the Jade Room where the players are weaker than Throne Room players, but I can beat them more consistently and sharply decrease the percentage of games where I get 4th place. This isn't really a problem for players in other ranks, because although they match up with stronger players, there's also a proportionate increase in rank points gained in those higher rank rooms, which makes it worth it. But for Saint players, it's a completely different story. If you open the Watch tab in Mahjong Soul right now, you'll see that there are lots of Saint players in the Jade Room, and you might be wondering, isn't there still more Masters than Saints? Yes, but keep in mind that there are about 38,000 Saint players compared to about 370,000 Master players, which is a ratio of about 1 in 10. However, the proportion of Saint players in the Jade Room is far higher than that. So, as a Master rank player in the Jade Room, what does it mean for you? Well, when you queue into a game, you can encounter players with a wide range of skill levels, from Master 1 all the way to Sane 3, and it's something completely out of your control. So you need to play in a way that works against both Master and Sane players. And after almost 1,200 games in the Jade Room, I realized something. The most consistent way to climb to Sane isn't by learning any advanced techniques. It's something much simpler. Most players who reach Sane don't actually learn that many advanced techniques, like discard reading, Sashikomi, Shibori, and more. They reach Sane by doing the same things that you do, but they are better at it and more consistent. Things like proper tile efficiency, what tiles they choose to fold with, and their push-pull decisions. In particular, I want to focus on that last point. There's something I noticed in my own games that I believe is the single biggest thing that separates Sane players from Master players. So, what is it? Stop dealing into open hands. Both times I deranked to Master 3, it was because of one main reason. I dealt into open hands too often. And all 3 times I climbed back to Sane, it was because I was consciously trying to avoid doing exactly that. From what I've seen in my Jade Room games, it's very common for players to fold if someone else declares Richie, but it's far less common to see players fold against open hands. I feel like a big reason for this is that Master rank players don't really know how to judge when their opponent with an open hand is in Tenpai. Here's a takeaway I want to share with you today. When you see your opponent open their hand, I want you to consider 2 things, speed and range. Let's break it down. Firstly, let's talk about speed. How do you gauge the speed of an open hand? The general rule of thumb is, you should treat your opponent's hand as being in Tenpai if they have called 3 times in row 1, twice in row 2, or once in row 3. Remember this condition. In fact, for easier reference, I'll refer to this situation as the open hand danger zone from now on. The thing I noticed in today's Jade Room is that 8 or 9 times out of 10, when someone's hand is in the open hand danger zone, the round will end with somebody else dealing in. When you really think about it, it's weird, right? If you're one of those players who tend to fold into Richie hands, but also deal into open hands a lot, try and think about why. Is it because you think Richie hands are more dangerous than open hands? Yes, it's true that Richie hands can flip Uradora if they win for extra value, but open hands also have the advantage of being able to change or upgrade your weight, or swap out tiles to form a bigger hand. For example, if they draw or slide the Dora tile. It's difficult to say that one is more dangerous than the other, so why do you fold into one hand but not the other? Secondly, let's talk about range. To put it simply, what kind of hands do you put your opponent on, and how expensive are those hands likely to be? Most Master rank players will act based on information they see. For example, they will know to start folding if their opponent shows 3 Dora. But most Mahjong players also play their hands pretty face up, or rather, they're pretty transparent about the strength of their hand. Most players will only open their hand if they have at least 1 or 2 Dora. This is especially true if they have called multiple times, because if their hand is going for speed, it's quite likely that it already has value. If your opponent has an open hand and is in the open hand danger zone, you need to ask yourself, how big is your opponent's hand likely to be? By consciously thinking about your opponent's Yaku and how many Dora they are likely to have, you can then make a decision on whether you should push your hand or start folding. To give an example, if your opponent is clearly going for Tanyao and the Dora is a terminal tile, then you know that their hand can't be that expensive unless it has the red Dora. So if you have red Dora tiles in your hand, you know your opponent's hand is unlikely to be that expensive. Therefore, you can consider pushing your hand if it's close to Tenpai or has lots of value. If you're already playing at the Jade Room level, you probably understand this. But what many players don't realize is that the reverse is also true. If they're going for a Tanyao hand, and the Dora is a Tanyao tile, it's completely within their range for them to also have those Dora tiles in their hand. Either way, when your opponent's hand is in the open hand danger zone, you should start thinking about what hands are in their range. If you think it's possible that the hand is expensive, I believe it's usually safer to fold the hand and let someone else deal it instead. In the Jade Room, it is very common for one player to deal into one expensive open hand, and that player will have a much higher chance of getting 4th place in that game. You don't want to be that player, as it puts you at a disadvantage for the rest of the game, and massively increases the chances of you getting 4th place. If you know this and your opponents don't, you can just sit back and watch them deal into those hands in the open hand danger zone. Ultimately, Mahjong Soul rewards 4th place avoidance, and a big part of avoiding 4th place is by spectating other players while they walk headfirst into danger. Even if you don't get 1st place, it's still a good outcome. Most of the time, being a spectator means you either get 2nd or 3rd place, and in Mahjong Soul, that's actually fine, because getting 2nd place gives you around plus 60 points, and getting 3rd place usually only costs you minus 10 points. In other words, it's still a net positive overall. In fact, if you're already in 1st place, all the more you should respect those hands in the open hand danger zone, because at that point, the only way you drop to 4th is by taking unnecessary risks and pushing tiles that you don't need to. Anyway, that's a secret I'm sharing with you for conquering the Jade Room from someone who has climbed to Sin rank 3 times. If you start consciously applying this, I'm quite sure you'll see positive results over the long run. As for me, if I'm going to try climbing to Sin 2, it's definitely going to be from the Jade Room as well. If you're interested in seeing my thought process in real time, I also stream my Mahjong Soul gameplay sometimes. Feel free to also join my Discord server if you want more updates on my upcoming streams or strategy discussions. I hope you found this video interesting, and thanks for watching.